What if the quietest house on your street held the darkest secret? Imagine seeing a man sneaking into an abandoned house every night at the same time, rain or shine. No lights, no visitors, just him and the shadows. Would you confront him? Call the police? Or would you keep watching, hoping to catch him in the act? Before we dive into this gripping tale of suspense, mystery, and a shocking twist, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And if you love stories that keep you on edge, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story like this. It all started on the quiet suburban street of Willow Lane, the kind of neighborhood where people mow their lawns every Saturday, wave politely at each other, and the most exciting thing to happen is a for sale sign going up. But everything changed when he arrived. Every night at 11:47 p.m. sharp, a man dressed in a long grey coat with a hood pulled low over his face would appear at the end of the street. His pace was slow but deliberate. He never looked around, never spoke to anyone. His destination? The old Sanderson house. This house had been abandoned for years. Its windows were boarded up, its garden was overgrown with weeds, and the no trespassing sign had long since faded. Everyone knew the house was empty. So, why was this man sneaking in every night? For weeks, the neighbors noticed but did nothing. Probably just a squatter, some said. Kids playing a prank, said others. But one neighbor, Mrs. Linda Harper, wasn't so sure. At 62 years old, she'd seen enough in life to know when something didn't feel right. And this? This felt very wrong. One night, Linda decided to stay up and watch. From her second-floor window, hidden behind the curtain, she kept her eyes locked on the street. Just like clockwork, at 11:47 p.m., the man appeared. Her heart pounded as she watched him approach the house. No lights came on, no sounds, no voices, just darkness. He slipped through a side door, and the house swallowed him whole. What would you do at this point? Would you confront him? Call the police? Tell your neighbors? Drop your answer in the comments, because what Linda did next would change everything. The next morning, Linda couldn't stop thinking about it. Over breakfast, she decided to confide in her neighbor, Mr. Graham, a retired school principal known for being by the book. Probably just some teenager hiding from his parents, Mr. Graham said, barely glancing up from his newspaper. Let it go, Linda. But she couldn't let it go. Not after what she saw the following night. At 11:47 p.m., she was ready again, this time with her phone camera. The man arrived as usual. Grey coat, hood low, slow, purposeful steps. But this time, something was different. He wasn't alone. There was a second figure following him. A child. A small girl, maybe 6 or 7, in a bright red jacket. She clung to the man's coat like a lifeline, her tiny legs struggling to keep up with his long strides. Linda's breath caught in her throat. Who is she? Where did she come from? Why is he bringing a child into an abandoned house at midnight? She raised her phone and hit record. The video was shaky, but she captured the moment the man pulled the girl inside the house. Linda's heart was pounding in her chest, so hard she thought he might hear it from across the street. When the door closed behind them, Linda grabbed her phone and did something she had never done before. She called the police. There's a man sneaking into the Sanderson house at night with a little girl, she said, her voice trembling. Please send someone. I'm scared for her. The operator promised to send a patrol car, but Linda knew how these things went. By the time they got there, he'd be gone. And she was right. The officers arrived at 12:15 a.m., 20 minutes too late. No sign of the man, no sign of the girl, no footprints, nothing. It was as if they had vanished. Days passed. Every night at 11:47 p.m., Linda watched, but the man never showed up. The house stayed dark. Her nerves were shot. She felt like she was being watched herself. Every time she went outside, she glanced over her shoulder. The mailman's footsteps felt louder. The sound of a distant car engine sent shivers down her spine. Then, on the 7th night, it happened. Linda had just settled into bed, her phone on the nightstand when she heard it. A soft tap, tap, tap at her front door. Her blood ran cold. It was nearly midnight. At first, she thought she was imagining it, but then it came again. Tap, tap, tap. Slowly, she crept to the front window and peeked through the blinds. Her heart jumped into her throat. There, on her porch, was the girl in the red jacket. Her small face tilted up, her eyes wide and glassy. But the girl wasn't looking at the door. She was looking directly at Linda. She gasped, stumbling back, her hand over her mouth. How did she know I was watching? She grabbed her phone and dialed 911 with shaky hands. "There's a girl on my porch," she whispered, her voice barely a breath. "She's just standing there, staring. Please send someone." Then her phone buzzed. A new message. It was an unknown number. "Stop watching!" Her breath hitched, her heart pounded in her ears. "Who's there?" she shouted, backing away from the door. She glanced at the window. The girl was gone. The next morning, Linda showed the video to the police. Her hands shook as she replayed it, her heart racing every time she saw the man leading the little girl into the house. Detectives took the case seriously this time. They obtained a warrant and entered the Sanderson house later that day. Linda watched from her window, her heart thudding in her chest as officers disappeared inside. Minutes later, one of them ran back out, shouting into his radio. More police arrived. Paramedics followed. Linda's heart sank. Had they found the girl? Hours passed before an officer finally approached Linda's house. "Mrs. Harper," he said, his face grim. "We found the man, but it's not what you think." He hesitated, glancing back at the house as if searching for the right words. "The man you saw was a father. His daughter had gone missing weeks ago, and he was searching for her himself. He'd been staying in that house, hoping she'd come back." Linda blinked, stunned. "Then, the little girl?" The officer's eyes darkened. "That part we're still figuring out. We never found her inside. But..." He hesitated. "We found drawings on the walls. Children's drawings. Lots of them. Drawings of a girl in a red jacket." Linda's blood went cold. "Wait," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I saw her. Last night. She was on my porch." The officer's eyes narrowed. "Mrs. Harper," he said slowly, "are you sure it was a little girl?" Linda's heart stopped. "Yes," she whispered. "She looked right at me." The officer glanced down at his notepad, flipping a page. "The last drawing we found?" He hesitated, lifting his eyes to hers. "It was of a woman standing at a window, watching." "What would you have done if you were Linda? Called the police earlier? Confronted the man yourself?" Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And if you thought this story was chilling, wait until you hear what happened to a man who found footprints in his attic. Click here for another story that will keep you awake tonight. Don't forget to subscribe for more tales of mystery, suspense, and the unexpected. See you next time.